Hello and welcome to a very special edition of Weekly MTG, the only show coming to you from literally inside the building at Wizards of the Coast headquarters in Renton. We have a fantastic show today, and I know that because I have one of my favorite guests on. I have senior game designer Ethan Fleischer, who is here to talk to us about Dominaria United. Because not only did he work on this, but Ethan may know more about Dominaria lore than any human on the planet.
It's possible. I certainly know more about Dominarian geography than any human on the planet.
You absolutely do. Yeah, that was probably one of the last times we had you on the show was when you talked about the map of Dominaria.
Yeah. For Dominaria United, I led the vision design team for the main set, and I also led the design of the commander sets all the way from start to finish.
Yeah, so we're going to talk previews today. We are, as you can see at the bottom, we're going to talk about some of the set booster commander cards, which again, Ethan was right on top of. We have some other previews in there as well, which are very lore focused. So Ethan's going to give us some background on those. And then we're going to round things out with some questions from you that you can put in chat. You put them in now, I'm probably going to forget. But if you wait towards the Q&A section, then we'll definitely get those queued up for Ethan. Before we get to all of that, let's start with a little bit of news. So today's news is just a reminder that the August Super Drop is on sale at secretlayer.wizards.com. The bundle right there has all the bundles bundled up for you. It's $469.87. The full of foil bundle is all of the foil bundles in one bundle. Say bundle one more time, I dare you. $289.93. And then we have non-stop, non-foil bundle, $179.94. And then my favorite drop in this particular super drop, the Showcase Dominaria United Texture Foil Edition. So this takes the stained glass foiling treatment in Dominaria United, which is already awesome, and applies it to the Elder Dragon Legends from Original Legends, which is really cool.
Very exciting to see them in such a exciting new treatment.
Yeah. Next up we have, so this yeah, we're just all excited and up, and now it's like it's a little sad. It's a bit sad. Our friend Jay Ballard died in the story of Dominaria United, and so in memoriam, the Jaya Ballard, both foil and non-foil edition, are available for $39.99 and also $29.99.
Jaya Ballard is one of my favorite characters. I'm definitely going to be picking this one up.
Yeah. Next up, we have the Artist Series Niels Ham, and these are adorable and fantastic cards. Next up, Artist Series Victor Adame Minguez, and we have both foil and non-foil for these. I definitely want that compost. Moving on, Imaginary Friends Foil Edition. This is my favorite from the drop. I like several of these.
So cool looking.
They really are. The Gitrog just kind of like hugging his legs. Anyway. Yeah, Imaginary Friends Foil Edition, non-foil edition, $39.99, $29.99. And then we have the Dan Frazier. So there are two Dan Frazier drops in this one. So Dan Frazier's back again. The Enemy Talismans, again, both foil and non-foil. And then finally rounding things out, of course, the Allied Talismans, again, from Dan Frazier. All right, that's the August Super Drop. Now, let's talk about Dominaria United. I'm super excited about this. I've been doing work stuff all day. Not that this isn't work stuff, but this feels like just kind of hanging out and getting to talk about cool Dominaria United stuff, which I'm super stoked for. So we're going to get right into it. So the first batch of cards we're going to talk about are the Set Booster Commander cards. So in case people aren't familiar, Ethan, where and how can you find this set of cards?
These are in set boosters. I believe they're also in collector boosters, right? Mm-hmm. So that's where you'll find them. And they are legal in Commander, Legacy, and Vintage, but not in Standard or Modern.
Yep, and you can tell the difference based on the set symbol and also at the bottom, the three-letter code in the lower left.
It'll say DMC on the bottom, and it'll have the same expansion symbol as the cards from the Commander decks.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, so let's dive right into it. The first card is Historian's Boon. So this There it is. Hi, Historian's Boon is a 4-mana, 3 and a white enchantment. When Historian's Boon or another non-token enchantment enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token. Whenever the final chapter ability of a saga you control triggers, create a 4/4 white angel creature token with flying and vigilance. All right, what's going on here, Ethan?
Sagas have been a great success. They came out in the original Dominaria set. We've put them in multiple sets since then, including Dominaria United.
Yep.
And we wanted to start to enable people to play with lots of sagas together in a deck. And so here's a sort of reward for getting those sagas in there. How's the Sarah Angel token sound like as a kind of reward that you're looking for?
Sounds pretty good. I mean, I'm looking at this, and I have an Enchantress commander deck, and so I see the first line that's like, whenever the boon or another non-token enchantment enters the battlefield. This is kind of in the vein of a couple other win conditions in that space, and if you happen to be playing sagas at the same time, you get a little extra bonus. This works really well actually with Urza's Saga, which is appropriate because it does all the things. Yeah.
So many things, as it turned out, work well with Urza's Saga.
Yeah, and of note, so as Ethan said earlier, these cards are found in set boosters and the collector boosters. The set booster version on the left, the collector booster version is the extended version on the right. All right, next up. All right, so Robaran Mercenary. So I'll read the card, and then we're going to talk a little bit, because I may have mispronounced that too. We'll talk a little bit about who these people are. So 3 and a white for a creature human mercenary. It's a 3/4 vigilance. How do you pronounce it? Because
Robaran, I guess.
Robaran.
That's how I pronounce it.
Mercenaries has all activated abilities of all legendary creatures you control, which is super sweet, and I'm sure people's heads are spinning right now. But first of all, tell us, who are these people?
So the Robaran Mercenaries are this group of freedom-fighting pirates/mercenaries that were active in Jamura prior to the invasion. Most famously, Jedid Ojanen joined up with them and had some amazing adventures.
Oh, okay.
I believe they were started by Hazazan Tamar, possibly. I might be off about that.
All right.
It's a little hazy. But they are still active even in modern-day Dominaria. They've been a successful outfit for centuries now. And here they are. They're still teaming up with all kinds of heroes.
Yeah, I like the flavor text on that. We learned from the best and the worst, pretty much whoever was available. So yeah, whatever legend you have lying around, they're going to do the thing. Yeah, I can see chat's already. Okay, we can do this with it. We can do this with it. Yeah, we can combo with this. This is going to be a pretty powerful card in a lot of like Sisay decks, legendary focus decks. I like it. I dig it. All right, next up we have Emperor Mihail II, which means there was an Emperor Mihail before this. It is a Merfolk Noble for 1 blue and a blue, legendary creature. All right, Merfolk Discord, get ready. You may look at the top card of your library at any time. You may cast Merfolk spells from the top of your library. Whenever you cast a Merfolk spell, you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 blue Merfolk creature token, and it's a 3/3. Cool. So first of all, who is Emperor Mihail?
Emperor Mihail II is the leader of the Vodalian Merfolk, who are the biggest Merfolk nation in Dominaria. And of course, this card calls back to Future Sight, a card that lets you look at the top card of your library and cast spells from the top. He's only for Merfolk, but that's where you want to play him. You want to play him in a Merfolk deck, maybe in Commander, maybe even in Legacy. I don't know.
Oh, it looks like it could be. I mean, there seems to be some tricks you could do with like a Marrow Regery to just kind of go off, which seems pretty sweet. Yeah, I have a blue-green Merfolk Commander deck this goes right into. I dig it. So the Vodalian Merfolk clearly have a long history in Dominaria. Give their sort of story compressed.
Right. So the Vodalian Merfolk originally lived off the coast of Sarpedia, but when the Homerids came up from the trenches and attacked them, they were all but wiped out, and they had to flee their ancestral lands. Their empress jumped into a portal to try to get to safety and was accidentally catapulted a millennium into the future. It was all crazy.
So originally that was Fallen Empires.
Yep.
And then, was it Empress Galena that
That's
you're
right,
talking about?
Empress
Okay.
Galena.
I know some lore.
Yeah. And then, they were prominent during the Ferexian invasion. They fought off the Ferexians along with everyone else in Dominaria. And when we made Dominaria in 2018, the Vodalians were one of the major blue factions alongside the Tolarians. And they're still here, and they're still fighting the Ferexians.
All right. Speaking of Ferexians, that was a good transition. I don't know if you meant to do that, but it worked out. We have Activated Sleeper. So Activated Sleeper is 2 and a black for a 0/0 Ferexian Shapeshifter. It has Flash, and you may have Activated Sleeper enter the battlefield as a copy of any creature card in a graveyard that was put there from the battlefield this turn, except that it's a Ferexian in addition to its other types. All right, so what's the concept going on here?
Right, so the Ferexians have been replacing people with sleeper agents all over Dominaria to sort of sabotage things and spy on people and kidnap people and just sow disorder everywhere to make Dominaria ripe for invasion when the big invasion happens. And so this represents that. Mechanically, it kind of looks like Body Double, which is a card that can be a copy of a creature from a graveyard, but with a twist. It has Flash, but it can only get something that died recently. You don't want to impersonate George Washington if you're going to infiltrate the United States. There's no point. Everyone would just be like, you're dead. But if you impersonate somebody who was secretly assassinated recently, then that would fool everyone.
Oh, that makes I get it. I get it now. Is it? I don't know. Have we done this before, where it's like a black clone? I know we've done black-blue sort of clone graveyard effects.
I don't think we've done something quite like this. I think this is a pretty unique card here.
Okay.
I mean, obviously, in a lot of ways, it's like reanimating something, but there are a lot of different mechanical interactions, different things you can do with this that you can't do with a normal reanimation spell.
Very cool. All right. Next up, we have, talking about things I'm going to mispronounce. Rosnacht.
Heir of Roga.
There we go. Thank you for handling that part. We have a 1 red mana for a 0/1 legendary creature Kobold Warrior. It has Battle Cry. Welcome back, Battle Cry. I haven't seen you in a while. And Heroic. Whenever you cast a spell that targets this creature, create a 0/1 red kobold creature token named Kobolds of the Care Keep. All right, who is this individual?
This is the current leader of the Kobolds of Care Keep. Roga, of course, being the first legendary kobold from way back in the Legends set, but that character lived a long time ago. Rosnacht is here, and she's in charge now. It's a fun kobold. This one doesn't cost 0 mana. It's a little too powerful.
I know
for
that. I was like, come on.
If only. But the ability to have Battle Cry and this heroic ability combined is that's at least a mana's worth of.
Is it a real kobold if it doesn't cost either 0 or 6 mana?
We did make some other kobold. There's Kobold Taskmaster and such. So it's not mandatory that they cost 0.
All right. Next up, this name rang a bell, but I couldn't quite place it, and so I'm sure you'll explain it to us. Baru Wormspeaker. So 2 green, legendary creature, human druid, 3/3. Worms you control get +2/+2 and have trample. And then an activated ability of 7 and a green, tap, create a 4/4 green worm creature token. This ability costs X less to activate, where X is the greatest power among worms you control. All right, so who is Baru?
So you may recall from the Future Sight set, Baru Fist of Krosa. So that was a glimpse into a possible future of Magic, and now we've come to that future. Here we are, we're in the future where Baru exists. He lives in the Krosan Forest. He has taken up the mantle of the Druid and is a follower of the Kamalite school of Druidity.
Druidity? Sure, yeah, Druidity.
So here he is, and he just loves those worms. Look at him, and they love him.
Well, and the first time I looked at this, I was just like, oh, he's standing in a forest. No, he's standing on a worm's face.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's so he can give it scritches with his staff.
Yeah, Worm Tribal. That's new. So, like, when you're making these, do you start with the concept? In this case, did you start with the concept of let's make a Baru, or were you like Worm Tribal's kind of niche? Let's help them out.
This one, it was more start with Baru
Uh-huh.
and see where that takes us. And I was like, okay, Worm Tribal is something that I get requests for sometimes. It's definitely like a goofy tribe with a fairly large number of members, though. There's a lot of worms out there, and so.
We used to slap worm on like everything.
Right. I just, and for me, like, worms were so exciting when I first started playing Magic with Alpha. Like, Craw Worm was this huge creature. It was a 6'4", 6'4", enormous and so cool looking. So I always loved the worms. Yeah. And I know lots of other people have a fondness for worms. So I love making these commanders that allow people to look back at the old Magic cards and bring them back out and
bring that Craw Worm.
find a place for them to shine again.
That's an 8/6 Craw Worm with Baru on the table.
That's even better than 6/4.
It makes the activate ability almost free. Do it. Craw Worm, commander hit Craw Worm. All right, next up, another character you may recognize. Green Sleeves Morrow Sorcerer. So 3/2 green, legendary creature, elemental. Power and toughness is star, protection from planeswalkers and from wizards. That's flavorful. Green Sleeves Morrow Sorcerer's power and toughness are each equal to the number of lands you control, and then whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 3/3 green badger creature token. I love that. So who is Greensleeves first of all, and then we'll get into some badgers.
This one's a little more complicated.
Okay.
Greensleeves is the star of the second, third, and fourth Magic novels, which are Whispering Woods, Shattered Chains, and Final Sacrifice.
The first Magic novel being Arena.
Right.
The greatest Magic novel of all time. But go on.
In those stories, she was a budding druid and powerful spellcaster.
Okay.
Her people were being oppressed by a bunch of evil wizards and planeswalkers. She and her brother led a popular uprising of various creatures who had been summoned by wizards and planeswalkers and then just abandoned. And so they all banded together and they got this powerful artifact called the Stone Brain, which is a helmet shaped like a brain that if you zoom and enhance, you'll be able to see that she's wearing it there.
Okay.
This had the ability to take away wizards and planeswalkers' magical powers. So she was able to
love early Magic
tame these evildoers who were just trying to play Magic, let's be real. And of course, she was friends with giant badgers. You can see her in the flavor text for the original Giant Badger promo that was that you could get a copy of when you bought. Clipped a little coupon from the back of one of those novels. However, that was a long time ago.
It was a really long time ago.
That was centuries ago. What's she doing here now? Well, in the intervening years, Greensleeves has continued to do her work in the Whispering Woods in Arona.
Okay.
And gradually, as her bond with the woods became more and more powerful, she transformed into a Morrow Sorcerer, an avatar of the forest composed of plants. So she is now an elemental. She's no longer a human druid, but an elemental.
Okay, so she didn't start out as a Morrow Sorcerer.
She was a human to begin with.
Okay.
And the power of green mana has slowly transmuted her into a Morrow Sorcerer.
And you said the word badger, but like, were badgers just her thing, or were badgers among her things, and this just made you laugh, or why badgers?
Well, I mean, she was on the flavor text of Giant Badger, and badgers were her thing. Like her like favored familiar or whatever was a badger. So like, badger. That's charming.
Some people like a badger. Some people like a worm.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people just badgers.
If I have a chance to go for the charming thing, I'm going to go for the charming thing.
I love it. Love it. Badgers. All right, we have one more set booster commander card to show you. And if you're familiar with Magic Story, this is going to sound familiar, and it's finally getting a legendary version. So this is the Mana Rig. It is a 3-mana legendary artifact. Whenever you cast a multicolored spell, create a tapped Power Stone token, which is an artifact with tap add colorless. This mana can't be spent to cast a non-artifact spell. And then for XXX and tap, look at the top X cards of your library, put up to 2 of them into your hand, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. So what is a mana rig? Or the mana rig, I suppose.
The mana rig is this huge artifact created by Glacian, who was a Thran artificer from many thousands of years ago. He built it in Shiv, and it remained there for many years until eventually Urza discovered it, and also discovered its ability to produce power stones, which up until then had been this super rare thing. Power stones are the essential component of all advanced artifice in Dominaria. They power all of the war machines of the Brothers' War and the Thran civilization, and they were essential in the war effort against the Ferexians. So getting a hold of the mana rig was a huge boon for the coalition, and Joyra and Teferi helped to get it up and running again. And it's still there in Shiv now. Joyra, as we've seen in the storyline, was running the mana rig herself. And we never made a card for it. It appeared in several cards.
Which is crazy, because, it's been around forever.
For Invasion block, but and it was all over Urza Saga block, but we never actually made a card called the Mana Rig. So we needed to do it. And you can see we have these Power Stone tokens here, which that's the same token that the Karn Planeswalker card makes. So we wanted to align those. I knew the Mana Rig card had to make Power Stone tokens.
Obviously.
And it's this symbol of the coalition's war effort. So playing into multicolored spells felt like a way to align with the themes of Dominaria United, which is about the different civilizations, the different colors working together to defend the plane against the Phyrexians.
All right. So was this one? How'd you land on this one? Did you start with like you said, we never made a mana rig card?
Yeah. It was definitely the concept first here, and the execution was quite difficult because there's a little bit of conflict between multicolor matters and you can't spend this on non-artifact spells, right?
A little bit of tension.
But we did put that last ability on there where you get to spend your mana from the Power Stones to activate the Mana Rig's other ability. So I think it'll hang together, but it was a bit of tension there as far as the design goals. Yeah.
Well, and the one thing a lot of people miss on the Power Stones mana is that you can't use it to cast non-artifact spells. You can use it on abilities.
Right.
Things that it doesn't matter if the creatures or the thing is an artifact when you activate the ability, that's still kosher.
Right. So ideally what you want to do is cast a multicolor permanent with a big activated ability and then spend the Power Stone mana to activate the ability.
Yep. Makes sense. All right. So those are all of the set and commander booster exclusive commander cards. This is a mouthful, but we got there. Now, I'm super excited for these previews. I handpicked these previews for me. For me.
Audience. You get to do that.
I do
you
get to
pick
that.
whatever cards you want.
But there's juicy stuff in here for Ethan to talk about. These are very cool cards. We are going to start, though, with some sort of just bread and butter, make the set work kind of cards. We haven't shown these off yet. And they are the 10 common tapped dual lands, which we have in a lot of sets. Not every set, but a lot of sets. But in Dominaria, domain is important. So how did we land on these?
Well, you can see these are a cycle of enters the battlefield tapped lands. And they have 2 basic land types each, which allows them to tap for one of 2 different colors. This is exciting because you can use your fetch lands to get them, and also each one of these increases your domain by 2.
Right.
So they have powerful interactions with the set mechanics, and they'll act more like some of the powerful dual lands that you're familiar with in other formats, the shock lands, the original dual lands, and so any of the cards that interact with those lands will interact with these lands, which, they're not as powerful. They always enter tapped.
Right.
But it does sort of allow you to build a mana base with cards that you just got out of your draft pile, and
Yeah.
it'll play a lot more like cards with a lot of rare cards in the mana base.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, a lot of times your shock land is coming into play tapped anyway. But I think also it's where these are common, which is huge for the limited format, making domain work. It's super important. I'm sure some Pauper fans out there are also salivating over things they can possibly do now as well.
Yeah, I'm sure there are some cards that can search these up and will hopefully enable some cool new decks in Pauper.
Yeah. So I did see a question in chat that's worth jumping on. The question is simply, what's domain? We did throw it out here.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Domain is a mechanic in Dominaria United, and it's applied in a bunch of different ways, but basically every domain card asks, how many basic land types are there among lands you control? So if you have a swamp and an island and a forest, your domain is 3. If you have 6 forests and 1 mountain, your domain is 2, right?
Yeah. So those help out because they are multiple land types in one card.
Right, and usually those common dual lands that we make do not have basic land types. They
Right.
just have the ability to tap for one color or the other. But
Yep.
For this set, we made these new ones that work with domain and work with other cards in interesting ways too.
Yeah, we've come a long way since Coastal Tower.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah.
We have.
Speaking of Coastal Tower, our next card is a reprint from that era. I don't think they were printed in the same set. They weren't. But it's about the time I started playing Magic. And so I'm super excited because we've been printing versions of this card that didn't quite get there. The numbers were a little smaller or they did something else. But I'm happy to announce the return of Impulse. So if you're not familiar, 1 and a blue for an instant, look at the top 4 cards of your library. 4, not 3, everyone. Put one of them into your hand and the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. The flavor text from Teferi, of course, because Teferi's an OG. Teferi was quoted on the original Impulse. He wasn't pictured on the original Impulse, but he was quoted. So I'm feeling all kinds of feelings in this. How did this end up back in the set?
Well, I mean, I wasn't involved in adding this card. This was added during the set design period, but lots of people have fond feelings for Impulse, and in fact, Impulse is sort of R&D slang for any ability that looks at the top however many cards of your library for something. So it is sort of the iconic version of that effect. And what set was it in original? Was
Visions.
Visions.
Visions, yeah. It came out in Visions, and then we have reprinted it, but always in ancillary sets. It never made its way back into standard. For a while, Impulse was like the gold standard of the sort of Ponder preordain sort of blue card selection deal because it's an instant.
Until we printed Ponder.
Right. Those were a little bit better.
That was when I would say Ponder was stronger than it should have been. Like looking at how it's performed in various formats, I think it was a little too strong. I think Impulse is definitely very strong.
Yes.
But not going to be totally busted, hopefully, like we found that Ponder preordained were.
Fun bit of trivia: the original Impulse had errata.
Oh, right. Because it made you shuffle after you put the card on top.
You put the cards, you took your card and then put the cards on the bottom, and it was like, then shuffle. And I was like, why? Why did it? So they got rid of it. Anyway, that's the correct wording, but it was the original Impulse. It was errata shortly after release. To just be like, don't shuffle. Don't do that.
Don't shuffle. That was an accident.
Yeah. All right. The next card, super cool. So a lot of people, you hinted at the beginning, a lot of people love sagas. And we have the read-ahead mechanic now as well. And so we've hit on a bunch of familiar stories. So this next one was a huge moment in the original fight against the Ferexians, which was Urza assembles the Titans. So I'm going to read this, and then you're going to tell us about the story and all of what's going on here. Urza assembles the Titan is 3 and 2 white for a read-ahead saga. Read-ahead lets you start on any chapter of the 3. So chapter 1, scry 4, then you may reveal the top card of your library. If a Planeswalker card is revealed this way, put it into your hand. Chapter 2, you may put a Planeswalker card with mana value 6 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. And Chapter 3, you may activate the loyalty abilities of Planeswalkers you control twice this turn rather than only once. All right, so Ethan, what was the story behind Urza assembling the Titans?
Right. So during the original Ferexian invasion, Urza knew that they needed to take the fight directly to Phyrexia. And who could do that better than a bunch of planeswalkers, given that Phyrexia is a different plane, right? So he assembled the first big planeswalker team, which was the 9 Titans.
Can you name all the Titans?
Oh, I think so. They're very small on here. But so Urza himself, of course, is the figure in the middle there. And then going around, I believe we have Lord Windgrace. I believe that is Taysir of Rabaya. Christina of the Woods. Oh, man, who is that one there? That's probably Commodore Guff.
Oh, yeah.
Freyalise. Bolivar. Oh man, who's that one? It's so small. That must be Tevesh Zot and then Daria. So these are all planeswalker characters.
I feel like I should applaud that. That was impressive.
Yeah. So these are characters that appeared in old Magic novels and comic books. None of these were characters that were just made up for this story, I believe. Yeah, these all appeared somewhere else first. So they really dug. Oh, and that's not true. Commodore Guff and Bolivar, I believe, were made up for the invasion. So
Okay.
They did not appear before that. But yeah.
Commodore Guff card went?
Never, if I have anything to say with it. And then, of course, obviously, the mechanics of this card are all about planeswalkers. It's all about putting it in your Super Friends deck to power up your planeswalkers, which it makes sense. Here's the original Super Friends.
Yeah. No, very cool card. Okay. I have 2 cards left, and I admit, like, when we get to these, I'm feeling all the feelings about this, so you're gonna have to explain yourself here. Because one of my favorite characters early on, again, we're going way back in the Wayback Machine, is Airtight.
Right.
Yep. I think originally printed in, like, Weatherlight, maybe?
Because Airtight was...
It might have been... oh, yeah, you're right. It was Tempest. And Airtight was one of the original crew members on the Weatherlight.
Right.
Like, OG crew member. Went through some troubles, got caught by the Phyrexians, ended up dead at some point in time. All right, so this next card tells me, first of all, Airtight's not dead. Airtight's full of scorn. And that flavor text there, you're not so special, Karn. Anything that has been assembled can be disassembled. And of course, I'll read the card real quick. 1 blue and a blue, instant. This spell costs blue less to cast. If an opponent casts 2 or more spells this turn, counter target spell. All right, so what's going on in this moment here?
I mean, Urtai is talking smack, as he always does on these counter spells, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and clearly he's messing with Karn. I believe they got in a fight in the stories.
In the story, so we know Airtie's back, but it still messes with me to see this next card, Airtie Resurrected. So this is 2 a black and a blue, or 2 a blue and a black, if you will. Legendary creature, Phyrexian Human Wizard, 3/2, flash. When Airtie Resurrected enters the battlefield, choose up to 1. Counter target spell, activated ability, or triggered ability. Its controller draws a card. And destroy another target creature or planeswalker. Its controller draws a card. All right, give us some background on... Tell us the story of Airtie.
All right, so this is definitely my most self-indulgent moment, was putting Urtai in Dominaria United. All right, so what happened was Urtai was a member of the Tolarian Academy. He was taught by Baron, the Master Wizard. The Weatherlight crew went to Talaria to try to convince Baron to join their crew.
Yep.
And Baron was like, no, but I have this extremely pleasant young man that I feel would benefit from a little extracurricular activity away from the Tolarian Academy. And they brought on Urtai, who was, this wizard, powerful wizard, very arrogant, incredibly arrogant, seriously full of himself, and in need of some personal development. Let's just put it that way. they brought Ertai with them to the Plane of Wrath, and he was accidentally left behind. So
Accidentally? I'm doing air quotes. Nobody can see this right now.
yeah, he was left behind, and
It was accidental. It was kind of heroic, actually.
yeah, he heroically, sealed the portal behind them, or opened the portal in front of them, or both of them.
I think he had to hold the portal open for the Weatherlight to fly through. But they were being, this is how old I am.
It's been a minute.
They were being chased by, I think, the Predator flagship.
Yeah.
And so the Weatherlight went through and then closed the portal so that they couldn't be followed, I think.
So after that,
Yes.
Ertai was still on Wrath. You know, the rest of the Weatherlight crew went off and had more adventures.
Yep.
Ertai was stuck on Wrath, but he is still a powerful wizard.
Yeah.
Like, he's no slouch. And so in the Nemesis novel, with Volrath's disappearance, since he'd stowed away aboard the Weatherlight, Volrath, the Evancar of Wrath, the leader of Wrath, was no longer on the plane. The Phyrexians demanded that a new Evancar be selected, and so there were several candidates, including Ertai. Ertai was one of the potential candidates. Eventually, the Evancar was chosen, and it was Krovax, not Ertai. But Ertai was completed and turned into a Phyrexian monstrosity. He joined the invasion and attacked Dominaria, and was killed more or less by accident by Squee. Oops. Squee can be clumsy sometimes.
Squee is the real hero of Dominaria.
Now, here comes the weird continuity wrinkle, which is why I say that this is self-indulgent.
Okay.
So I've read, I believe, every word there is to be read about Dominaria as far as like official fiction goes. And the Wrath and Storm novel, which was like the Tempest Block novel, has as a framing story, this old librarian character is telling this young student about the adventures of the Weatherlight. And it's totally clear from context cues that this old guy is Ertai. And he's turned his life around and is no longer a jerk, and he's really old, and he's a librarian, and he's teaching the young.
Yeah.
It's like, well, if he's dead, then how could this happen, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, all right, I know this is very silly, and it's very, this forgotten novel from however many years ago. Do we really need to do this? I was like, I need to do this. All right.
You
so
definitely need
you know
to
what
do
the
this.
Phyrexians, if Shealdred is coming here, she's a master of black mana.
Yep.
Let's bring Ertai back. She uses some horrible Phyrexian magic / science to resurrect Ertai from whatever bits are left over in the stronghold. And he can be the Evancar of the stronghold here on Dominaria now, and assist the Phyrexian invasion. Hopefully at some point in the future, he will find some way to become that wise old librarian. But that will be a story for a different day.
Yeah, he skipped over the part where he was a Phyrexian and dead for a while. But yeah. All right. So that covers all of the preview cards that we have for today. So that means it's Q&A time. That means if you have questions for Ethan, and they can be about some obscure Dominaria trivia here, like you can go deep, put them in chat. It helps if you tag @magic, just because it's easier for me to see it. And then we will start asking questions of Ethan. And let's try to stick to Dominaria. I'm not going to answer questions about Arena or anything. That's not his area.
Unless it's the Arena novel.
Unless it is the Arena novel. We could have an entire show about the Arena novel. I've read that thing probably 4 times. All right. Show us the Badger token. Maybe producer Sean can work some magic there, but I'm not going to promise anything. On it. He says he's on it. All right. Let's see. Are the set booster commander cards available in foil? So the best answer for any sort of is this available in what, especially when you're talking about collector boosters, is to head to dailymtg.com, and on debut day, the 18th, we ran a couple articles about the set and about the makeup of everything. and I'm drawing a blank on what the name of the article is. I know Stibbs is watching, and we'll probably put it in chat, and maybe a link to it.
It's like where to find Dominaria United cards.
There's where to find Dominaria previews, which tells you where the previews are, and then there's, I believe it's Collecting Dominaria United, which has the chart which says what slots are in each booster.
That was by Mike Turian, I believe, that article.
Yes, yeah. So that will give you all of the details. We could try to rattle them off here, but honestly, that is the core document that will have everything that you need.
It's probably better to look at the article because it's hard to remember every little detail about that sort of thing, and they make sure that they get all the details right in the article.
Yep, absolutely. Are we getting the rest of the cards tonight or tomorrow? The full card image gallery will be going up tomorrow. Yay! Okay, so the question is no Slimefoot card, ? And what's up with Yargol? So obviously some of that's forward-looking, but people love Yargol. Yargol's from Dominaria. Why is there no Yargol here?
Well, all right. So the sort of basic philosophy here was I tried to make as many characters who hadn't appeared on cards or didn't appear in the original Dominaria set from 2018. There were a few characters that, for story reasons, we really wanted to put in here.
Sure.
But because Yargol and Slimefoot are not featured in the DMU story very much, they didn't get cards this time. But we are definitely all fans of Yargol and Slimefoot here. I love them both, and I would not be surprised if we
why make new cards when they're perfect already?
That's also true.
I mean, what you gonna make worse cards?
Yeah. Like this one's a 10-4. That's not as cool as a 9-3.
Next question. Oh, we got the badger.
Oh, we've got the badger. Let's see the badger
token.
Show us the badger.
That is a badger.
Yeah.
That is in fact a badger with some green magic. Token creature badger.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Next question for Ethan, is Velan, Svyelun, still alive?
Svyelun
is
the goddess worshipped by the Vodalian merfolk and has been for a long time, since the Fallen Empire's days. I'm going to kind of dodge that question because Svyelun is a somewhat abstract figure. Was she ever alive? Maybe. She's a god, and, these things are mysterious.
They act a little bit differently.
Yeah. Like, is Thor still alive? Maybe.
Next question. So Baru was from Krosa, right? ?
Yep.
Are the Nantuko all right?
The Nantuko are doing great. Our general philosophy with Dominaria is that thing you loved is probably still alive.
Okay. Including airtight. All right. Here's a great question for you. Book recommendations for new fans to catch up on the lore before Dominaria United.
Ooh, all right. That's a fun one. I would really recommend Jeff Grubb's Ice Age trilogy if you get a hold of it. That is The Gathering Dark, The Eternal Ice, and The Shattered Alliance.
That's impressive.
Super fun,
Yep.
well written, do a great job of sort of explaining the mechanics of how the card game mechanics translate into the creative of Magic, at least as it was understood at the time those books were written, which that was in the early 2000s, late 90s, I believe. But a lot of fun. You'll get to find out all about Joda and Jaya Ballard and Limdul. And a lot of that stuff is still relevant. Like Jaya Ballard is a major character here. Joda is a major character here. And as we found out, Limdul is the Raven Man. So that's a great one to read. Yeah.
We were real big back in the day on giving people either like immortality or the ability not to age. So I guess they're still around.
That's what happens when your plot spans millennia. You need a bunch of characters that can live a long time.
All right. What made you want to do a Ferexian Cavu, given the history of Cavus?
Well, the thing that we really wanted to do with the Ferexians was to shock people. One of the Ferexians' biggest attributes is that they are invasive and upsetting, and God, there's a word on the tip of my tongue. I can't quite come up with it. It's all right. And yeah, so like things like, oh, the Cavu were created by Gaia to fight the Ferexians. The Weatherlight was created by Urza to fight the Ferexians.
Yeah.
Seeing these symbols of the invasion perverted into Ferexian form enhances the horror and raises the stakes and makes it clear that the Ferexians are serious and they're not to be trifled with, and this is a serious threat to Dominaria.
Yeah. Next question. Whatever happened to Chromium, one of the Elder Dragon legends? Could he ever see a return?
Chromium was killed by, I believe, Tevesh Sat, and his corpse was turned into a planar barge by a deranged planeswalker named Ravadel. And he rode it around and was a jerk to people. So, yeah. I don't think we're going to
never say never, but
yeah. I mean, we brought airtight back, we brought braids back, but Chromium, last seen, he was a boat.
Okay. All right, question that you may or may not know the answer to. Are the common lands that we just showed, are they in the common slot or the land slot, specifically of draft boosters, I guess?
I don't know that off the top of my head.
That's a fair. It is
I
a
don't want to
good
give
question,
the wrong
but
answer.
Yeah. Let's see.
Chat wants to know when Chromium Vehicle when.
Chromium Vehicle when. Yeah, one day.
If we had done Elder Dragons in the Legends Reborn thing, I was totally going to do a double-face Chromium that turns into a vehicle.
Okay, so we've got a bunch of questions about slivers, and I know people were like, where are the slivers? So why are there not slivers in this set? Where are they? What are they up to?
Right, slivers are creatures that each one of them grants an ability to all other slivers. And so if you just have one sliver in a set, it doesn't really do much. It's just a creature with an ability. So you kind of want to have a bunch of slivers in a set where slivers appear.
Yeah.
And so the slivers are still on Dominaria. They still live there, but we haven't seen them in Dominaria 2018 or in Dominaria United just because they would take up such a large amount of real estate in the set that they would kind of crowd out the other themes that were more important for us to focus on here, just given the overall story of what Magic is about for this year.
Okay.
But, one of these days, when we come back to Dominaria, you're going to see slivers, because I love me some slivers. So don't worry. Once again, the thing you love is probably still alive, and in this case, I promise they're still alive.
Does the Arena novel take place on Dominaria? So does it? It's always been like a weird continuity thing.
Right. There are definitely some, minor continuity glitches with those early Magic novels, where just like a lot of the sort of world building hadn't been established to the degree it is right now. But yes, Arena definitely takes place on Dominaria, and when the folks that kind of established Dominaria's geography and everything were building out those maps, Pete Venters especially was one who was in charge of the continuity department at the time. He combed through all those old novels and took lots of details from those novels, including Arena, and incorporated them into the early Dominaria maps. So absolutely, Arena takes place on Dominaria.
Yeah.
And if you find a place name on there, you will find it on one of those old maps somewhere.
Nice. Yeah, one of the main characters was a Benalish hero.
Right.
Yeah. I don't think they explicitly called it that, but like they described the person and it just matched the art on. Yeah. I've read that book a few times. Will we ever hear more about the Dothi Soltari War and how the Thalicos were involved? So this is going way back as well.
Right. So these are creatures from Tempest Block that were from Dominaria. The Soltari and the Thalakos and the Dothi were strange humanoid creatures from Dominaria who were partially transported to Wrath, but were trapped in the Shadow Realm. So they're sort of partially in between dimensions or something. I think it's likely that we'll find out more about them eventually. We didn't get to them this time. We did get the core here, though, which are from Wrath originally.
Yep.
That's where we originally saw the core for the first time. And so those core, when the Wrathy overlay happened, everything from Wrath got transported to Dominaria. So the core are there. They live in New Argive now. The Dothi and the Thalakos probably got transported to Dominaria also. I don't think we saw any of them in Time Spiral Block, did we?
Time Spiral Block?
Man. I can't think of it.
We might have. There was some shadow in that block.
Yeah, I think it was all Core and Dahl and Vec, though. Anyway, they're probably there. The Soltari, however, are on Mercadia, because they went through the planar portal to Mercadia at the same time that the Weatherlight went through.
Gotcha.
And then were immediately dropped from the plot, and we never saw them again.
Let's see. Okay, here's a interesting question. So a lot of the new characters that we're meeting are characters who are trying to live up to the legacy of either their ancestor or someone whose mantle they've taken up. And so this individual is wondering if anyone has followed the legacy of Orem.
Oh, absolutely. Orem is speaking of Mercadia. Orem lives on Mercadia and is a Samite healer, or did live there. She married Chomano, the famous rebel, and they had a kid named Oris, who you see on a Future Sight card. One of the Future Shifted legends is Oris. So that's the direct legacy of Orem. There are lots of Samite healers, actually on many planes. The Samite order was in some way interplanar in nature, because we see Samites on Mercadia, on Dominaria, also on Mirrodin and Old Grotha. So they got around. I'm not sure how they got around, but they got around.
But they did.
So yeah, I'm sure. I can't remember if we ended up making a Samite. I think there's a Samite card in the file somewhere.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
I don't either, but I do see it. It's ringing a bell. So keep your eyes open tomorrow when all the cards go up, and maybe you'll find a Samite healer.
Maybe. Why not bring the retro frame back in DMU? Well, because we didn't.
Yeah.
I saw the question a couple times. People love the retro frame. I love the retro frame. I have a retro frame deck. It will return at some point in the future. Dominaria United was not the place.
Yeah, I do feel like it could make good thematic sense, but we didn't do the retro frame because we did the other things.
The stained glass, the stained glass.
So,
you can't do all the things, and the stained glass is really cool, and the foiling, if you haven't seen the pictures of it online, is also really cool. It's unique foiling for the stained glass treatment, so definitely check those out.
But yeah, we know there's retro frame fans out there, and there will be retro frames in the future. I promise that.
So I don't know if it's the same person, but folks asking, will Teferi have a card in this set? Not in this set.
Right, he is not in this set.
Okay, another lore question. Are there any surviving primordials apart from Rith and Darigas?
Right, so there are no other primordials who are currently active, but there may be surviving ones.
Okay. Fair enough.
We'll see what happens.
What happened with the Predator ship? We mentioned that earlier, facing off against the Weatherlight. Right. What happened with the Predator?
The Predator was destroyed during the Ferexian invasion, I believe.
I think that's right.
I don't think anybody saw fit to rebuild that ship.
Let's see. All right. Important question.
Or it was in Hull Breach. They crashed it into the stronghold.
Yeah, that's what it was. Now that we have Garth and Greensleeves, when are we getting Vram? I don't know who that is.
Is that Lorelei?
I don't think so.
No, wow. There's 2 Vram fans. Yeah, so Vram is a planeswalker character from a Magic short story from some sort of shape-shifting, purple-haired, all-female species, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, that seems cool to me. We made a Gaedrone Dihada card, so I'd say that Vram is certainly not off the table.
All right. Last question, and it's not even a question. It is an all caps request that I'm going to honor.
All right.
Talk about Jedit. Just talk about Jedit.
All right, Jedit Ojanen, huge tiger man, one of the biggest cat warriors of all time. Appeared in the original Legends set, had his own comic book series, was the star of 2 different Magic novels, and founded a great dynasty of cat warriors in the Scarwood in Jamura. We saw he was kind of infamous almost for leaving his homeland of Afrava, which was a major no-no among his people. You're supposed to stay in your place, which is in this woods, and don't go out there. He went out searching for his missing father and joined the Robaran mercenaries, and fought a big war against the evil Johan, flew around in an airship, and was a total badass. We got to see an alternate universe incarnation of Jedit Ojanen in Planar Chaos, a view of what would have happened if Jedit Ojanen had stayed home and become a leader among his people instead of wandering out there gallivanting around. That was a mono-green version.
Yep.
The original version was a white-blue card. We've seen that his dynasty continues because there's a modern-day descendant, Zar Ojanen, who is another cool tiger person. And then, of course, we got in the Legends Reborn set of cards that are the box toppers. We got a Jedit Ojanen, who is just a flashback version, a redesigned version of the original vanilla card, I believe, who's also white-blue, but has green in his color identity. It's sort of a callback to that Planar Chaos card.
Great. All right, that was the last question. I am going to read one more comment just because it's a great comment and it exemplifies this show. I would love a Commodore Guff card that writes himself into exile as his ultimate. I would too. That's amazing. Okay, we are just about out of time. I want to thank Ethan for showing up and bestowing all of this knowledge on us. We are definitely going to have him back on and just, I mean, we're about to start celebrating Magic's 30th anniversary, so stories about Magic stories are definitely going to be things we do. So we'll have Ethan back. Thank you for tuning in. Dominaria United full card image gallery goes up tomorrow. And then the digital release happens next week on Thursday, followed by tabletop pre-releases immediately after that, starting Friday. And then the global release week after that on September 9th. Next week on Weekly MTG, if you're curious about what it's like to open up Dominaria United, we'll be cracking some packs and looking at that. Nice. Otherwise, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next week.